Hey guys, welcome back to the Coach to Coach podcast. This episode is going to be a little bit different. I wanted to share an update with how my life is going. Of course, being a new father, I want to talk a little bit about how I've pivoted a couple of different changes inside of my business and even a couple of things that I've been working on in the past. I've hinted on a couple of episodes that I'm actively writing a book, that I'm also looking to speak on TEDx. Of course, being a new father, a lot of these changes have shifted my priorities, not just inside of my business, but of course, inside of my life. I want to share with you guys how I'm navigating these things because I think it's really important as a business owner for you always to be able to reevaluate what your ideal focus is and what you're going to be focusing on in your relationship, inside of your family, spiritually, and of course, inside of your business. And then I also want to do this episode to talk about what pivoting and success actually means as an entrepreneur and a business owner, because a lot of us who are self-employed, whether you've got a practice of 16 to 18 people, or maybe you have a team of 3 to 4, or maybe you're just a solopreneur, this aspect of ongoing success, constant growth, if you're not growing you're dying, this hustle culture, it's really something that can be quite toxic after a certain point. And I'm doing this episode because I have had a lot of reflection over the past couple of weeks. My son was born October 29th, and that's going to be officially 6 weeks, 5 weeks ago. What is it? It is the 8th. Yeah, so this is going to be approaching the 6 weeks. So now I'm basically the first week past in December, and in taking a look at all of the to-dos that I had on my plate, all of the intentions that I had set for last year, there were a lot of projects that I had on the go that started off me assuming that it was going to be an entire year and then I would have these projects done. But these projects kind of blew up in really big ways, which is really exciting. And now, of course, there's carryover, and I'm looking to kind of set new intentions for this new year. When I go and I set these new intentions, I'm really taking a look at my schedule, my routine. I'm taking a look at the existing commitments that I have, and I'm saying to myself, does this make sense for my existing goals? Does this make sense for the new goals that I'm setting? And does it fit within the new vision that I have that I'm creating inside of my life? I am creating this new vision of being a full-time father. And what I mean by that is not I'm going to stop business and all of a sudden I'm not going to coach anymore. No, it's how can I show up 1,000% for my son, for my wife, and for my family, be present at all of the appointments, be present for all of the outings, be there to be able to pick him up and drop him off from school. And although he's just a newborn now, all of these things are things that I have to plan and that I have to work to change my business around. If you guys are familiar with my Hormone Helper podcast, where I talk about health and stuff and bring practitioners on, I talk a lot about my definition to a certain point for building business and bringing my coaching online was for me to be able to build a business that I could work from anywhere at any time. And I did that successfully. Now I have a very small team and it works easily for me to be able to, whether I want to pop in a certain practitioner's facilities or do online coaching, I don't really have any tie downs, which is fantastic because it allowed Lorna and I for us to travel to Japan, travel to Greece. Where was the other? We went to Costa Rica last year, so 3 locations, which was incredible. All of that was really great, but it didn't factor in having a child. I knew that I wanted to, of course, have 1 or 2 kids, conditional, of course, depending on how the one is. If you get a nightmare one, you're like, I'll stick with 1. But I wanted to have, 1 to 2 kids. I wanted to be able to build a family. And now that I'm in this process of building a family, I have to look towards the way that I built my business again, the things that I've actually put as a priority, aka travel, or like certain things like TEDx speaking. And I have to take a look at that and say, is this something that still makes sense for now this new vision which Lorna and I are building together? And I share this with you guys on this episode because there are a lot of practitioners and health coaches that go through several stages. At the very beginning, you might just say, look, I don't have a lot of attachments or commitments. Maybe I have a partner, but I'm relatively focused on my business. And my goal is just, I'm going to continue to fill my time. I'm going to show up to every networking event. I'm going to keep promoting via social media. When I'm not doing social media, I'm running ads. I'm building my practice. I'm taking everybody on one-on-one. And I want to fill that time because I have the time to be able to do that. Then as you go through that process, you make this transition of like, wow, I've become really established. I have my set of clients that pay my income no problem. I want to start taking this business to a point where I can do other things. I can travel. I can start to bring on multiple teammates, and your vision starts to change. It starts to change all throughout business, where you go from just filling your time to then you actually want to build a business that is self-sustaining without you. So leads happen without you, sales happens without you, growth happens without you, and you're just contributing to the vision and the development. That is ultimately where all entrepreneurs and business owners end up. And at that point, you have to make a decision. You have to decide if you are going to be the practitioner or the person who is always working inside of their business. Some practitioners prefer that and they build teams around them. Cool. Or you have to decide if you're going to take it to the next level and actually build a scalable business where all of these things do happen without you, and they happen without you very well. This allows you to live a totally different type of life, a life where regardless of whether you're promoting or marketing, you're always making money. Your money is not attached to you, so it's actually a separate entity, and you can do some really cool things like traveling, things like investing. Like Lauren and I share frequently that we have a rental property that we just picked up. We're looking at some other investments as well too. But all of this to say, as you continue to age, hopefully you age gracefully, you're also going to have different desires in your life too. You're going to go from solopreneur to maybe married, from married to I'm going to have a kid. And then once you have your child, you might say to yourself, well, do I want to have 2 or 3? Do I want to be able to be a full-time parent? Am I going to be balancing these duties? And then you're also going to have your own personal dreams that are going to shift alongside that. Maybe once your practice and your health coaching gets into an established place, you're going to say to yourself, there has to be more, like the book or the retreat, or maybe you start buying and purchasing other businesses. Like a lot of my friends, they own multiple businesses in totally different industries because their first business allowed them to buy into other stuff. All of this is really fantastic, but it points a very big magnifying glass is going to be pointed on your structures, your systems, and of course, your vision. What is your vision moving through the next 3 years or 5 years that is going to come out of where your business is right now? Because we are always, oftentimes I'm finding that most health coaches and practitioners are always focused month to month, or some of them are like looking at 90-day windows. Those windows are actually very short, and it's really easy for you to build a business that still gets super full, and then you're still heavily attached to it, and you can't really transition out. For me, my original goal was for me to be able to build a business that I could work from anywhere at any time. I did that with the hormone coaching and it was very great, but it was still heavily attached to me because I was the primary practitioner. I was the one that all of the coaching was going through. Then my vision started to change. I said to myself, if I'm going to build coach to coach, even though I am working with these businesses one-on-one, I had a decision to make. I said, do I design a team that allows me to take on 50 to 60 businesses at a really high level? I work one-on-one with them, but then I'm just doing the conversations, having the networking, doing the growth that I love to do while my team supports me. Or do I go and create another scalable system where I'm the face of the brand, but I'm not the coach? There is no right or wrong in this area. The most important thing for me is that the vision of my life in the future fully aligns with the way that I'm building my brand right now. I have always seen myself as a high ticket person. I don't do low ticket. I don't do $35 offers. I don't do small cheap masterclasses. If I do something for free, it's so that way I can market it and throw ads behind it and get 1,000 leads from it. All of the stuff that I do is at a very high level, and so I keep my coaching at a very high level, and it's very intimate. Because I've designed my business that way, I know exactly what my client cap is. I know exactly what I'm looking to make month over month. I have my specific metrics that I'm keeping track of, like this is how many people I want to be working with per quarter. And then from there, I can decide the next stage when my kids start to get into their teenage years. Do I then want to outsource, aka give other coaches the opportunity to take my place while I become the face of the brand again, like I did with hormone coaching? Right now, in the stage of my life, having a child demands a lot of my time. And I'm okay with that. I'm okay with not doing 6 to 8 hours worth of work every day. Maybe I get 2 to 3 hours of work a day. That being said, I have full level of presence. I've designed my business with the availability where if I'm feeding my son, I'm just feeding him. I'm not scrolling. I'm not watching TV. I'm not worried about the emails. I'm not worried about the client conversations. I get to be fully present. And I've also designed my business for the vice versa. When my child is being watched, whether it's by my mom or by my wife, or that 3 hours or 2 hours that I'm working per day gets 95% done of what I need to do every single day. Because I was intentional about that with the setup of online, it works, and it works very well for me. I have a lot of friends and family members who are like, I can't believe you guys are still working, because my wife Lorna has her business as well too. But it's like, yes, we are working, but we are not putting the excessive amount of time that you believe working entails as a business, because we've designed our systems otherwise. Like Lorna has 2 to 3 calls a week, and then she's creating content, which is batched ahead of time. There's a lot that goes on behind the scenes that we look like we're showing up every single day, but in reality, we don't have to be in a chair at work working with people every single second of every single day. So let's start with the vision conversation. Whenever I'm looking to set a vision, whether it's with a client inside of the Coach to Coach program, or whether it's just for myself, or even with friends, because I do a lot of vision work with friends, I really take a sit down and I say to myself, what happens after what happens next? That is my main question, which leads to the 3 to 5 year plan. Most people are in the now and they're saying, what happens next? So AKA great example is like, oh, my business hit 30K a month. I have 70 people. So what happens next? Now I hire one person on. Cool. And then at that point, they have to work towards getting that person on. And then the same thing. Okay, now I have the person. This is offlet. What's going to be the thing that I do next? They're always only focused on the next step. My question of what happens after what happens next is really saying to myself, if I were to look and get the full dream team that I was looking for, what happens after the dream team? If I was to be able to build a business where I took myself out of the business, what am I actually going to do at that time after I take myself out? If I hire on that person, how am I then going to reallot the resources to do things like show up to every single soccer game, or take on another hobby, or maybe travel more? We have to write these things down. And I look towards these very ambitious goals that I have, and I say to myself, if I want to accomplish all of these things, I need to see, or at least have a rough framework of the blueprint that's going to go down the road. I'm thinking 2 steps ahead all the time, because I know that that step is going to eventually come. And what I don't want to do is build a system that only focuses on step 1. And by the time we get to step 6, the business no longer works and I have to tear everything down. And this is really evident in practitioners' offers. Solely focused on one-on-one, then their one-on-one time fails and they're like, oh, my model is broken. Or they get into a place where they price very cost effective. They try to get super cheap for people. Then they hire a big team and then they're like, oh, now my pricing model is broken. Everything is always broken because all of the conditions or challenges that are going to come after the first step, they never take into account. I'm always looking towards the vision that the 50-year-old, 60-year-old me has, not just the one who's 30, turning 34 this month, who's then going to go into 40, which is going to be the next big milestone for me. I think to myself, at 50, there are several things that I want. Multiple properties in different countries. I want to be able to have multiple businesses as well too. Lorna and I have done it successfully with 2. We had a supplement company that, because we were so heavily involved in it, that actually didn't work out. And maybe I'll actually do a podcast episode on that. But in going through the process, I know 100% the things that I want. And in order for me to be able to get there, I have to start thinking, what does it look like at 50? What does it look like at 60? So I can reverse engineer that. We don't give ourselves enough future thought and enough future pacing for us to actually make moves that are going to stick long term. you don't also want to be breaking your model or destroying everything inside of your business every time you have to add a new piece or a new change. So looking towards my vision of 50 and 60, I say to myself, my ability to travel with my business is still going to be there because I have the ability to travel now. I also want the ability for my son or my kids to be able to travel with me because there's no tie down. I want rental places or locations where I can be able to go to multiple countries and I have my team set up and it's very easy. They're totally virtual. But then the vision starts pivoting away from just business. It's like, I want to be a part of a charity. I want to be able to have time that I can donate, whether it's for volunteering or whether it's some sort of donation work. I want to be on boards for charities. Outside of writing just a single book, I would love to be on multiple speaking engagements where I'm hopping from podcast to podcast and my time is just spent sharing value while my team continues to grow my business. I want my family to be a part of that. I want the ability to be able to fly my family in to wherever I'm staying that month. When I'm looking towards that, that demands a whole different type of business system than I just want to free up my own time. That demands that eventually I have a CEO or CFO that is making my business decisions at my level for me, so then I can go tie myself up with whatever else I want. And this is where I want to be the business owner that owns multiple businesses. Why can't I buy additional franchises? Why can't I go and maybe start something in a completely different area, like a cleaning business or a rock climbing gym is something that I was thinking about for a really long time. But right now, when I look towards my systems and what I've currently designed, it's designed to allow me freedom. It's not designed to allow the ability to take more time in those other things. So my vision is way longer than most people tend to think because I'm always saying what happens after what happens next. Now, in this vision, there are different seasons that, of course, my child is going to go through. Right now, my child is a newborn and demands a lot of time with feeding. Then he's going to go into grade school, and that's going to be maybe some minor sports, but it's just largely going to be taking him in and out of school, and that's totally fine. When he becomes a teenager, however, this is where things like, AAA hockey or specific sports start happening, where now all of a sudden you become an on-the-road parent, where you're traveling back and forth between hockey games, or you're taking your kid to gymnastics here, or doing this here. They've got different presentations. They've got different trips that they have to do or that they want to be a part of. And all of these things are going to be things that I have to be able to facilitate because I want that. I want the ability to be able to facilitate these things so my child grows up debt-free, because I was very fortunate. I had parents who allowed me to grow up debt-free. The vision then takes on a very different form of what success in business looks like. Most people think success in business is you're making $1 million a year and it's piles of cash. People will use like cash months as something that I keep hearing from coaches, which doesn't make any sense because unless you're being paid cash, there's no such thing as a cash month. But they are only thinking of revenue. They're thinking of the amount of clients that they have, and they're thinking of more. They don't recognize that that means more time, more stress, larger amount of sacrifice that is given because they can't envision changing their current system to accommodate all of that. Success to me means being successful in all areas of life. I don't want to have a really killer business, but then I'm not present for my son. I don't want to be able to make $2.5 million a year, but then my relationship with my wife is strained. And vice versa. I want to make sure that I'm fulfilled as a person as well too. I want to be able to have deep, meaningful relationships with my friends. I want to be able to travel and do D&D, but like rent out a castle to do D&D instead of just doing it in a friend's basement. I have so many different aspirations that I would deem as success. Success to me is not just being successful financially or being success in your business. Success to me is spiritual success. It's mental and emotional success, where my mind is clear and emotionally I have a high level of integrity. It's relationship success, where my friends, my family are very in tune and in touch with me. And then it's financial success. All four of those areas have to be present for me to feel fulfillment. Fulfillment is when all of those areas are done and they are done very well. And you can tell when you don't feel fulfilled in your life, when you feel like something is missing, where business becomes a grind instead of a passion, or where signing up another client doesn't make you feel any different because you've got stressors with your relationship. All of these things affect what your level of success is. So even when you're factoring in this vision to grow your coaching or to grow your practice, you really have to say to yourself, what is my definition of success? This is another thing that helps craft a vision. Because if success is purely financial in the amount of clients that I have, you're going to be building a vision and a dream that is actually going to be leaving you largely unfulfilled. And I've shared on earlier episodes of the Coach to Coach podcast that my business grew many different times. First, we had an in-home coaching company, signed clients, made money, successful. I burnt it to the ground because I couldn't stand it. Then we had our studio where people came to us, same thing, signed clients, made money, but I was there till 11:30 every single night and I was very depressed. You can have a business that is successful, but it still comes at a cost. And the cost is going to be you, your time, your energy, your capacity. And you have to ask yourself, as you get older or as you become more established as a professional, are you continue to prepare yourself to pay that over and over again? Because I'll tell you straight up, I'm not. I'm a big believer if you pay a cost once, that should be the only time that you pay the cost. That's why more time doesn't equal more results. That's why more hustle doesn't sign more clients. And you're going to find this balance between as you start putting more time in your business, you're like, I'm actually stalling in growth. And this is where you have to look towards taking that time back. But the definition of success is something that I encourage every coach and practitioner to really ask themselves. What is your definition of success? Because it can't just be financial. So when we look towards what happens after what happens next, and then we also look towards this aspect of what is your definition of success, now we can actually have a really well-established vision. And the vision allows us to be really proactive and to also look significantly farther down the road in how we want to build our business. And if you were to do that right now, you'd probably find that somewhere along the line, your business and your systems are going to be broken. They're going to have to be broken because what is working for you today is not going to work for the 10-year or 15-year version of you. Now, you don't always have to break your systems immediately. Maybe you say to yourself, this will be great until I hit about 400K of revenue. And then once I do that, I'm going to have to pivot. That's totally fine. But you're already taking that into account. So by the time you get there, it's not in this state where like, oh, what do I do? Or I feel a little bit lost. And this is where a lot of coaches and professionals, they get caught in the cycle of just the day-to-day grind. By the time that change happens, they start really questioning who they are. They're like, who am I? I don't know anymore. I built a business that's like so big, but it's still so connected to me that like I've lost connection with my clients. I've lost touch with my audience. I've lost connection with my family. These are things that you really have to start looking at. And that's why I wanted to do this episode, because I feel like a lot of the episodes are talking about the tools, right? I can tell you how to be able to increase your sales. I can tell you how to make a fire landing page. I can tell you how to create client converting content. These things are all just tools in the toolbox, but you are using these tools to paint and design a picture of a life that you have to live every single day. This isn't, you don't get to trade in your life at the end and say, oh, I wish I had this person's life. It's really important that you use these tools properly. So in order for us to use them properly, we have to take the time to plan. Like every good sculptor or like every good carpenter, you know, the whole adage of measure twice, cut once, it's effectively the same thing. There's only so many times you can make cuts or you can make changes to your business before there's really nothing left, and then you have to scrap it and you have to start again. versus the stone sculptor who sees the image inside, continues to work towards it, and it becomes more and more refined until it becomes a masterpiece. Business in your life should enhance your life. It should not shackle your life. It should not be the thing that prevents you from doing other things. Like, I can't travel because I have a business. Oh, I can't go to that soccer game because my business needs me. Your business is not your child. Your business is simply something you do. It is not who you are. And I share this because for a long time in my life, business was me. I identified as an entrepreneur. I identified as a business owner. And when I wasn't working on my business, I felt super guilty about it. When I wasn't in networking meetings, when I wasn't creating landing pages, when I wasn't building offers, or if I was sitting on the couch resting for half an hour, I felt this huge sense of guilt. And I kept saying to myself, I need to be doing more. I need to be working on my business more. I want to grow. And it's really easy for you to look to those outside sources on social media, maybe the coach or the guru you follow, and be like, look at all of the success that they're having, and I don't have that right now. But guess what? They don't live your life. They don't have your conditions. They don't have your situation. They don't have your timeline. And you also don't know the level of stressors or challenges that they have going on. Because their business could be like straight fire where it looks incredible, but their relationship and their life is on fire. And I've seen this with a lot of people. It was very eye-opening for Lorna and I, where we've worked with a lot of very high-level mentors, and the tools don't change. And when you get into those containers and you see how these people are operating day to day, sometimes you're like, that lifestyle's not for me. I actually don't want that. And I wish that people showed more of that, because business is a commitment. It is a commitment that will take a lot from you. And if you're not careful, it will take over your life. Now, when I say that, I'm still 100% passionate about my business. I love working on it. That's why I continue to show up every day, because it is my passion. That being said, I don't let it rule every aspect of my life. And that's why you have to design it to work separately without you. Because a business that only relies on you is basically you just have a glorified job. And that's what a lot of practitioners and coaches have. They hit this point, usually it's around 300 to 400,000 a year, where it's all them all the time. And it's very difficult to transition past that. So in going through this process, when I'm taking a look at my business in the future, I'm really focusing on faith first, faith, finances, family, those three. The order is not one is higher than the other. They all are connected. And as I look towards that, I look towards what I built right now, and I know that I have to make changes, and that's okay. It's okay that what is serving me today is not going to serve me tomorrow, and that's why I'm not energetically tied to it. Now, in order for us to make these changes, we have to be looking at who are the people I need in my life to make this happen, who are the players I need in my life to make my business happen, and then, of course, where's the purpose now? Where's going to be the purpose in my life moving forward so I can continue to work towards this? A lot of us, as we start to grow and build our businesses, especially as practitioners, the purpose wasn't being the technician. The purpose wasn't being the practitioner, working with the client because you got super passionate about the industry and you got excited. As you start moving past that, it's hard for some practitioners to regain a level of purpose, where now they're saying to themselves, okay, well, now that I've gotten to this point where I've taken myself out, now what is my purpose? What do I identify as? And here's the key. It's about being open and it's about being flexible. Like the Andrew that you're listening to right now has many different passions, many different purposes, because purpose is not found in one thing. Purpose is found in everything. Like this cup of coffee right here. There is purpose in making a really phenomenal cup of coffee and drinking it really well. There's purpose in being able to be there as a parent for your kid. There's purpose in taking up a hobby where maybe you paint or you rock climb. Every single thing in your life has purpose if you treat it like it is purposeful. But if the only thing that you've attached purpose to is just your business, you're really not going to have an enjoyable time as you continue to build and scale. It's just going to create more stress. So going through this process, I wanted to share, which I talked about at the beginning of the episode, some of the things that I had on my plate that I've had to push off. And I pushed them off to a point where I said to myself, I really have to evaluate whether or not the energetic alignment is there. So there's the energetic alignment of the book, and there's also the energetic alignment of TEDx. I've been applying to, probably about over 100 stages, and that's been over the span of a year. Some of these stages are late into 2026. At this point, if I'm going to hear something from a stage, it's not going to be today or tomorrow. So it's put a pin in that. I reclaim my energy with something that I can't control because I'm waiting on others to be like, hey, this is a green light. When new stages come up, I'll send in the applications, but otherwise I've applied. If someone is interested, they're going to let me speak. If they're not, then they're not going to let me speak. And I have no control over that. So I'm not going to spend energy and time and effort obsessing that. Then there's the book. At this stage, I haven't written for the past 2 months, and I haven't written because I haven't feel called to. And as I was reflecting on that, I've recognized there was a reason why I haven't feel called to write. It's because a large part of the book that I feel like was missing, that I really didn't know how to make a transition for, I'm actually actively living. And it is the aspect of fatherhood. It is the aspect of having a responsibility in which you raise someone else, a responsibility that teaches you that it's more than just about you. See, when I was writing this book for men and their mental health, I was walking them through the transition of being able to be a self-starter, having a high level of commitment, energetic state change, mental state change, emotional state change. But a lot of these things are things that serve only the self. And yes, you have to be able to be into a place where you can serve yourself before you can serve others. But there is a large part of the book, which is how do you then serve others and find fulfillment and purpose in that? So I've recognized and given myself grace that actually me putting a pin in the writing right now so I can be in a space where I can write the book that actually matters, not just finish the book to be a to-do list, that also reclaimed my energy. And it allowed me to really put a focus on just the business, which is what I want to work on, my family, which is what I'm putting a lot of time in, and then also my men's retreat, which I've actually kicked from February into May. So in looking at these things, it helped me realign myself with what I wanted to do, really taking the time to sit down and say, what does this Andrew from 3 to 5 years from now, what is it that he wants and what does his life look like? And I encourage you all to do the same. And I know sometimes we think to ourselves as a business owner, I'm focused on growth and it's counterproductive for me to sit down and take 3 hours or 5 hours to really build this vision and this dream. But you pacing the future and setting the tone for all of the decisions that you're going to make for the next 3 to 5 years, that's not a waste of time. And I had a mentor that really opened my eyes for this, especially when I started Coach to Coach. The first 6 months in Coach to Coach, I was scrambling. I was putting a lot of time. I was putting a lot of effort because it was new. I wanted to make a large footprint. And in going through that process, I was attracting different types of people that weren't my person. And he was like, how many people would you really say that were your person? I was like, maybe 2 of them. And he goes, so you spent 6 months finding 2 people who were your person. Effectively, you could have spent 6 months doing nothing and found probably 2 people that were your people, right? And I was like, holy crap, he's right. There gets into a space where we just get focused on the do. We get focused on taking action, and we don't actually take a step back to say, are the actions I'm taking fully in alignment with who I am and the direction of my vision and where it's going? If it's not, then you shouldn't be taking action at all. And we get taught struggled action because we feel like action, doing something, is going to be progress. No. It's not about how quickly you move forward. It's about the size of the leaps you're taking when you're moving forward. I would rather pause for 3 months, take 1 step, and that step puts me 6 months ahead than run. I'm sprinting everywhere. I'm fatigued. I'm burnt out. I'm exhausted. And I've done all this work inside of my business for 2 or 3 extra feet forward. That doesn't make any sense. And this is where you have to start focusing on being that professional. You have to start thinking like a CEO or a CFO. You're making decisions that are going to last your lifetime, not just last whatever moment you're focused on. So I took a look towards those things, the TEDx in the book, and I'm okay to energetically put a pin in it. And those things are still important to me, but I'm going to finish them on a time that makes more sense than the time that there is now. Right now, I'm going to focus on, of course, being with my son. I'm going to focus on serving the clients that we have inside Coach to Coach at a really high level. And I'm going to focus on building Coach to Coach and my men's retreat Meant to Grow. That's going to be my focus. And I've said to myself, the focus is going to be that way for the year so I can have a lot of presence. Presence is one of the words that I want to carry into 2026. Presence in my business, presence in my family, presence financially, where it's like I'm paying attention and we're making investments and those investments are growing. So also think to yourself, if you have to sum up with a single word what you're going to carry over into your life through this next year, what does that look like? Is it dedication? Is the word commitment? Is the word freedom? Whatever that is, sum up all of your decisions or the style of your decisions into one word and use that to carry through. That's what I'm doing with my clients right now. And they're finding huge benefit in it because they're starting to think longer than they've ever had before. And their new visions are getting them excited. Like being able to travel multiple times a year, being able to take their kids on these special events that other people haven't done. All of this stuff is really exciting, but it starts with redefining your vision. And I'll tell you something, a lot of coaches and mentors don't talk about this because they're still reactive and they're still month to month as well too. It's really hard for you to do this work when month to month you're always focused on what am I doing next? What is this next? So it's not just about building the business. It's not just about taking struggled action. At the end of the day, you have to look at setting your vision. You have to look at redefining what success looks like to you so it's equipped to grow with you forever. That is all for this episode, guys. Thanks so much for tuning in, and we will see you on another episode of Coach to Coach. Take care and have a good one.